It is that time of year again. We are back in the garage. It kind of came around quite quickly, didn't it? So we're back on the Volkswagen project. Trying to get this floor pan together as best I can in the next couple of weeks or so, and see where we get to. Now, next job we're going to be doing is the gearbox. So the gearbox is in place. It's a late gearbox, but I've made the job a little bit more complicated for myself because I'm wanting to fit short axles onto that. So early axles, which are a little bit shorter, keeps the track in because I want the wheels as far under the body as possible, especially as the wings on the Lanchester body that's going on this are quite narrow. They don't stick out very far. I don't want to extend them. Unfortunately, I've never put early axles on a late gearbox. It's just a job I've never done, and I can't find any information as to what actual parts you need to do that. I can't actually find any information as to how to tell which axles and axle tubes are which anyway, and as these were all involved in the fire for the Lanchester and the cabriolet a few years ago, they all got mixed up and I haven't got a clue. So basically I'm winging it. So this is not going to be a guide for how to do this unless it works all right. I'm literally going to be doing this for the first time. I'll let you see what goes wrong if it goes wrong. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully it'll be pretty obvious what I need to do, or if there's something that needs changing, we can change that. So yeah, short axles, late gearbox. Let's see how it goes. So this axle here is the original off the gearbox. I actually started this job last year and it's all kind of been abandoned. So I've already taken one side off, and this is the replacement short axle, which is going to go in on the early one. Now I believe this particular axle is from a 61 to 64. Now don't quote me on this, again I don't know, it's something I heard and I probably misremembered, but I'm sure somebody said to me you need to have an axle from a 61 to 64. Don't know why. I'm not sure what's specific about the axles from that year. Hopefully somebody might be able to update the comments and tell us what that particular requirement is and whether it actually is one. I have no idea. So we're rolling with what I've got, and I guess we'll just see what happens. And that bearing has seen better days. Probably seen a bonfire with my cabriolet in it. That's better. I've definitely had enough now. So everything's nice and clean, so all the contact surfaces are nice and shiny as they should be. I'm going to start constructing putting the axles and tubes back onto the gearbox. Now around here was a gasket. Well, in actual fact, there was two. Like a complete spoon, when I removed them, I managed to break them. They're really, really brittle and snappy, and they tend to be stuck when you remove them. So, yeah, I broke them. So we have to replace these. Now, these are not just gaskets. They actually act as shims or spacers. So they actually distance the axle tube away from the gearbox, the side of the gearbox. And that gap between the axle tube and this part here gives you the amount of clearance or drag on the daisy and all these parts. So I'll show you how to do that next. Basically you have to have it so you have a small amount of drag when it moves, when it's all constructed. If it's sloppy, it's not good, and if it's rock hard, it'll be tight and the whole thing will be causing you problems. So if we measure the gaskets they've taken off, which I assume maybe from the factory, one looks to be 0.17 of a mil, so probably a 0.20 originally. I'd say it's hard to get an accurate reading on these because they're all squished and rubbish, but that one's measuring 0.29, so I'm guessing that was probably a 0.30 originally from the factory. Now I think, don't quote me on this, I think originally they actually had a 0.3 and a 0.2 from the factory. So as I think these are a 0.2 and a 0.3, which would have been a 0.5 in total, we're going to roll with a couple of the 0.25s, again to give us 0.5 in total, and hopefully it'll not be too tight, not be too slack, it'll be just right, first time. Yeah, not likely. So in here we've got our Fulcrum plates. I did mark these so they went back in the same place. If you were reusing the same axles, it'd be quite important to try and put the axle back in the same place where it came out, and with the fulcrum in the same position too, because obviously wear together. Obviously I'm swapping the axles for short axles, so it's kind of irrelevant anyway. Now these tend to be a right pain in the bum, and they fall out of the place, and then when they fall forwards you can't get the axle in. So I'm just putting a little bit of grease on the back sides of them. Hopefully that way they will hold in position a little bit. Fingers crossed. Gonna put a dab of grease on the end of the axle. Hopefully that will go in between the fulcrums. First time. There we go. Second time. Next we're going to put the ring on. It's two sides, one's shiny, one's not. So I'm putting the shiny side inwards, and there's a little nipple which has to go into a little recess. Like so. I've got the snap ring. Again, we've got a shiny side and not so shiny, so shiny side's going inwards.
Too big.
Just make sure it's all in.
Spinning.
Yep, all in place. So the axle is now locked. Okay, next going to fit the daisy. Should just pop in place. Kind of locates in the centre. It's a bit scuffed, this one. The dealer should have replaced it, I guess. But I haven't got a replacement, so we're going to roll with it. Alright, next we've got our new gaskets. Again, we're using 2 of the 0.25s at the minute. See how that goes. Carefully put them on there, try not to damage them. Plate back on with the washers and nuts. When you're nipping these down, you want to work on opposites so it doesn't warp the plate. I've not even torqued the plate down yet, and the axle is solid almost, so it's actually holding its own weight up in the air. So basically we need to space this plate out a little bit more now with the gaskets or with the spacers. So we need to make this gap a little bit bigger, so put a bigger or more gaskets in between, and that should free this off a little bit. Okay, second time lucky, we're going to try 25 and a 30 this time. I suspect we're going to need a little bit more in between, so probably a couple of 30s to be honest. So with one white and one red gasket, so that's a 0.3 and a 0.25, it's still a bit too tight, so it's just holding itself up. Okay, third time lucky. 2.3 gaskets. Still too tight. So dilemmas. 2 red ones is too tight, so we need to increase the gap a little bit more, add more shim. Now I've only got 4 of each, so I could in theory put 3 of the white ones in, which will give me 0.75. 3 times 0.25 gives me a 0.75. However, assuming the other side is going to be remote the same, I won't have enough the other side. So I'm going to go with a 0.3 and 2 of the 0.25s. So 0.05 more, I guess. So it'll be a 0.8 in total. Right, I think we're okay at that. You just feel it dragging. It's a bit like using a feeler gauge. You can kind of feel it dragging on the daisy, but not sticking. So yeah, OCD in my work clothes. We're going to do this one last time, and I'm sure if I was happy with 0.8, then I'll be more than happy with 0.75, and I'll just give it that little bit more drag, that so it's just perfect. 0.75. Too tight. How annoying is that? Too tight. So I guess we're going back to 0.8. Now I know why people sometimes say, just leave it alone, will you? Well, 0.05. The sweet spot. That's right. See where we go with the bearings next.